bring your keys with you when you go to the bathroom. And pants. Keys and pants.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah. Welcome to Friendly Faces, Amazing Places, a podcast where each week I share stories from real people I've met while traveling. Everything from horror stories to inspiring adventures to insightful tips and advice. So sit back, fasten your seatbelt, and come explore the world with me and my friends. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Friendly Faces, Amazing Places. This week's friendly face is my friend Clemens. He's from an amazing place called Vienna, which I have not actually been to yet, and he lived in another amazing place, Vancouver, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. Clemens is one of the most multi-talented people I know, seriously. He plays the guitar, he plays football, he is a paramedic, he works in radio, and he's been all over the world. In this episode, we covered so many things, including our time together in Colombia, how Peru handled COVID-19, and why everyone in the world except Austria knows the sound of music. So please sit back and enjoy the episode. Clemens, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to be talking to you today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking me to join you.
Awesome. Can you please introduce yourself however you like?
I'm Clemens. I'm 25 years old and I absolutely love traveling. I mean, obviously that's how we two met. I just came back from a 9-month journey through the whole American continent, going from Alaska down as far as Peru. I'm a journalist in Vienna, so I'm actually doing a similar thing as you are. I'm as well a paramedic. I'm working part-time as a paramedic, and I'm working to save money and travel again.
Was that your first time in the Americas?
No, I was living in Vancouver for 9 months before this trip. I was studying, I was studying journalism in Vancouver for 6 months, and it was an amazing time, and I absolutely love Canada. I love Seattle as well. I've been a few times since it's only a 2.5-hour bus ride, and people are awesome in Canada and the United States, like super friendly and mostly open-minded. I mean, depending on where exactly you are, but like Vancouver and Seattle are both lovely cities with lovely people, and I can't wait to go back, actually.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to hear nice things about Americans, and well, we all know Canadians are nice. It's kind of like a stereotype we have here in the US. We're like, oh, Canadians, they're too nice.
we have the same stereotype in Europe as well.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. So could you tell us more about where you are from, and if someone were to visit your hometown, what do you recommend to see?
I'm from Austria, which, especially in South America, a lot of people confuse with Australia. It's completely different countries on completely different continents. It's this tiny but very beautiful country in Central Europe. We have amazing nature, just as the north of the United States and Canada. A lot of woods, a lot of mountains. It's amazing to ski. When you come to Austria in winter, you definitely have to go skiing. Mm-hmm. I'm living in Vienna. I've been born and raised here, which is the capital of Austria. 2 million people, which is quite big for Europe. And it's an amazing city. It's so beautiful. It's old architecture in the city center. It's full of culture, like a lot of famous musicians, classical musicians lived in Vienna over the past 100 years, like Mozart, for example.
Yeah.
That is one thing people know from Austria, I guess. If you came to Vienna, it actually depends on the time of the year you're here. In winter, Vienna is famous for the Christmas markets. It's beautiful, a lot of beautiful lights all over the city. You have, I think, about 25 Christmas markets in Vienna, and
wow,
you get all those amazing foods and amazing drinks and Glühwein and decorations, and winter is beautiful in Vienna, as is summer. But in summer, a lot of people, especially young people, like to spend their time outside. We have a lot of beautiful parks, and there's a river going through the city center of Vienna, the Donau Canal, and it's an amazing spot to go for a run or to bike. And in summer, when it's warm outside, especially a lot of young people and students meet up at the river. It's gorgeous.
I really want to go to Vienna. That
Oh,
is
you
an
have
amazing
to.
description. I will say, if I knew any two things about Austria from American culture or just from being American, I would say Mozart. Yeah, number one, Mozart. And second would be like Sound of Music.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, that is. You know what? A fun story. There's so many Austrians who have never heard of this film. Like the
Really?
first time I heard of Sound of Music was the first time was when I was in London, and I was talking to some strangers in a bar, and one of them was like, "Oh, I know Austria from Sound of Music," and I was, "Sound of what?" And they were like, "Sound of Music," and I was like, "I've never heard of it before," and well, apparently everyone around the globe knows Sound of Music.
Mm-hmm.
People in New Zealand have talked to me about it. People in Canada and the United States, people in South America, even South Americans know the film.
Wow.
But in Austria, it's not that popular. I don't even know why. I think it's because it's a war film, and it was released, I think, like 10 years after the end of the war, and people in Austria didn't want to be in touch with anything war related.
That makes sense.
So,
yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing about your home. So, next question is, since this is a podcast about people I've met while traveling, how did you and I meet?
That was in Villa de Leyva, which is a beautiful, tiny village in the middle of the Colombian Andes Mountains. And we were in a language school together. Like both of us were teaching English to native kids from Colombia, and
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing time. And I think we had a great time together honestly, those 5 weeks with jamming together in the living room and going out for cheap lunch together and having a glass of wine at night. Definitely a highlight of my travels.
It was really, really fun meeting you and all the other people there. Yeah, I would never have gone to a small town like that for a month on my own. So having that amazing experience there was really a surprise, and yeah, I'm really grateful for it.
Same for me. Like 3 weeks before I went to Via de Leyva, I didn't even know I was going, but I think that is what traveling is about. Just go with what happens.
Exactly. I love that. So what kind of traveler do you consider yourself?
I prefer actually when I'm traveling to stay longer in one place instead of rushing from one city to another, one country to another. I stayed in total for like 2.5 months in Colombia and 2.5 months in Peru and 9 months in Vancouver. And I think it's way easier to get to know a culture and a country if you stay longer in one place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I prefer that way more because I feel like I know Villa de Leyva. I feel like I know Vancouver. I feel like I know Cusco in Peru. And if I just stayed there for 2 weeks, it'd be different.
Have you always traveled your whole life, or when did you start?
I started actually because of someone else. When I was in high school, my parents asked me all the time, "Hey, do you maybe want to do a semester abroad in school?" And I was like, "No, I love Vienna. I love the people I'm here with."
Is that a pretty common thing for kids in Europe doing high school? Do you guys go abroad? It's not very common here.
It's not very common either. I know a few people who have done it. Maybe like 3 or 4 people out of my friends, but not that many. But my parents asked me and was never an option for me. And when I was 19, I had a girlfriend, and she finished high school the same time as I finished my civilian service. And both of us didn't know what we wanted to do afterwards, study, work. She had already spent 6 months in Argentina before we met. And she was like, she wants to go abroad. And I was like, I'm going to join you. So we went to New Zealand together and spent the 7 months together. And if I never met her, I probably wouldn't have started traveling. And right after coming back from New Zealand, I knew I want to explore the rest of the world. I want to live in Canada. I want to go to South America. I want to go to Asia.
That's a really big relationship step when you're in a young, new relationship to go live for 7 months in a foreign country with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we were together for like 1.5 years at that point. So, but I probably wouldn't have started traveling if my sister and I are very similar, but she never started traveling and she doesn't have the urge to go traveling. Whereas I want to explore as much as possible because she has never tried it. And I think trying it makes you addicted to it.
But for me too, yeah. I'm super addicted.
Yeah, same.
So what, you are from Austria. What languages do you speak and how does that affect, what do you speak when you're traveling?
In Austria, we speak German and we get taught English in high school for like 7 or 8 years, I guess. But my English level was very poorly before I started to travel. Like when I went to New Zealand, I had a hard time understanding what people were saying to me first. But after like 2 months, I got into speaking English, and spending more time in Vancouver and the United States helped me with my English as well. And that is, I would say, the main language I'm speaking when I'm traveling. When I was in South America, I tried to learn proper Spanish, but it's just way too easy to speak English to everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the international main language.
That's true. What do you do when you are not traveling?
I'm actually a very active person. It's super hard for me to take some time for myself and just sit at home and watch TV or read a book. I barely have time for it. Well, I was studying before I left for my trip, so I'm looking for a job at a radio station right now. And I'm a part-time paramedic, as I've mentioned before. So I'm doing this, and I'm additionally volunteering on the ambulance. Like I'm doing shifts with friends together at the ambulance or at concerts or football games or whatever it is out there. I'm playing soccer in a team, so I have training once a week and matches on the weekends. I play squash with friends. That is such a fun sport, and it's so good for your stamina. Yes, yeah. And I'm playing the electric guitar, and I absolutely love nature. Like I go for runs and I take my bike and go out into nature.
You seem like that to me, where you're the kind of person who's always doing something.
I'm way less active when I'm traveling. I'm way more relaxed because I'm out of my rhythm I have when I'm back at home. I don't have a soccer team. I mostly don't have a guitar. Playing squash is also hard. So I probably have way more time to myself when I'm traveling than when I'm back at home.
Yeah. Would you say that playing football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, listeners, whatever country you're from, does that help you make friends when you're traveling?
It actually did a lot when I was in Peru, because one guy from my work asked me to join him to his, he's playing with friends once a week in Cusco, and he asked me to join. And from that time on, I was playing once a week with them, and yeah, it was a good way to connect with locals.
I kind of wish, I feel like football is such an international sport, except the US. Like people in the US don't play soccer.
I think it's growing in the United States. Like the MLS is, I don't know, LA Galaxy, for example, Red Bull New York are both big teams who are gaining fans, I think, especially because the United States teams are buying a lot of very famous professional soccer players from Europe to play when they're over 30. Like, for example, David Beckham, for example, played in the United States, or Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who were some of the most famous soccer players in Europe and decided to go to the United States to play there for a while.
I didn't even know that. I think the most I know about soccer is obviously I'm in love with our U.S. women's national team. Do you have a favorite place you've been when traveling?
When I was living in Vancouver, the first day I arrived, I was walking around in the city center and just strolling around and discovering what there is. And I stumbled across the Plain Harbor. There's like a waterplane harbor in Vancouver. I instantly fell in love with this place. It's basically in the middle of the city center. On one side, you have the skyscrapers and parks, and on the other side, you have the water harbor with the Stanley Park in the background. And it's just a beautiful place that's super quiet, even though there's all the skyscrapers right next to you. I just love sitting there and having a Tim Hortons coffee and relax, listen to my music.
I love Vancouver. It's such a beautiful city. I understand why you picked that. So this section is called Around the World in 20 Questions. Number 1 is plan it or wing it?
Plan it.
Solo travel or group travel?
Both is amazing, but when you're traveling solo, you're meeting so many cool new people.
Are you a heavy packer or a light packer?
Heavy packer. I try to pack light, but I fail every time.
Beaches or mountains?
Beaches, because we have a lot of mountains in Austria and no beaches.
Desert or rainforest?
I've only been to the desert. I've never been to the rainforest before.
Cities or nature?
Nature.
What is a favorite food from your travels?
I'm gonna go for Italy, even though it's super close to Austria, but like pizza and pasta there is so good, and you can't compare it to any pizza and pasta in any other country.
Okay, so now, what is your favorite drink that you've encountered while traveling?
I think it actually was in Via de Leyva, the place we were. This one place who had amazing freshly squeezed mango juices, and like fruits in South America just taste so differently than anywhere else. And yeah.
What is the longest flight you've been on?
13 hours, Tokyo to Auckland in New Zealand.
On a plane, would you rather sit next to a really smelly person or a crying baby?
A crying baby, because I have amazing headphones.
If your travels were a movie, what genre would they be?
Adventure.
Are you more for the gram or for the fam?
Both.
Skydiving or scuba diving?
Skydiving.
What is the coolest historical thing you've seen?
The thing that pops up right now is Machu Picchu. Walking those old Inca grounds was just stunning, and I was there when no one else was there. It was super empty. And
would you rather have a hot one-night stand or a week-long travel romance that doesn't go anywhere?
Definitely number 2, because traveling for me is about getting to know other people.
If you could take a date anywhere in the world, what is the most romantic place you can think of?
There's one place, it's close. I gotta go with Vancouver again. It's close to Vancouver. It's 1 hour north. It's close to Squamish, and you can take up a gondola on the mountains, and you have an amazing view over the mountain ranges and the woods and the ocean. And it's like, I've been up there twice, and once I watched the sunset, and it was amazing. I didn't have a date with me, but I might take one eventually.
That's beautiful. Walking tour or going rogue?
going rogue for sure. I love going to cities and nature and just getting lost.
What is one essential thing you always pack?
Headphones, and not just because of the baby next to me, but I need my music with me because I connect other countries and situations and places to songs. So when I'm back home and I listen to a song, it reminds me of this one place or this one situation.
Oh my goodness, that's really cool. I've never thought about that.
Like, for example, do you remember the song that played on the TV in Vienna all the time? Your TV.
Yes.
Whenever I listen to the song, it brings me back to Via de Leyva.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I do it on purpose, and sometimes it just happens. I have so many songs that remind me of New Zealand, of Canada, of the States, of places in Europe or South America. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. It's like a world playlist just for you. Oh. So the next question is, I'm going to list the 10 most visited cities of 2019. And I just want you to say if you've been there and if you recommend it. Okay, so the number 1 most visited city was Bangkok.
Never been.
Number 2 is Paris.
I've been there twice and it's gorgeous.
London.
I think it's way more interesting for people who are not from Europe. Like, to me, London is a bit too big, but it's still a very beautiful city and it's very authentic. So go there. Yeah, you should go there at least once.
I've heard really mixed things about London. I feel like half of people really love it and half of people are like, yeah, it's okay.
To me, the United States and Canada and New Zealand, Australia, all those other English-speaking countries are way more interesting because it's so much further away.
Number 4 is Dubai.
Never been, and I don't plan on going there either. It's just super artificial. I like history and culture.
What about Singapore?
I've never been to Asia before, but it's high up on my list for sure.
Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia?
No, neither.
How about New York City?
I've been there and I absolutely love it. Like, someone who's from the United States would say they absolutely love London and New York is, yeah. But for me, coming from small Austria and going to the city with, like, it hurts putting your neck up to see the skyscrapers, and it's amazing being there. I couldn't live there, but I'm always willing to go.
Istanbul.
I've been there when I was like 10 years old, so I can't remember a lot.
Tokyo.
I've only been on the airport in Tokyo.
Number 10 is another place in Turkey, Antalya.
It's been ages. Like, I was visiting Turkey a few times when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
The final question is, if you could live anywhere in the world and money wasn't an issue, where would you live?
6 or 7 months a year in Vienna because I absolutely love my city. I've been living here my whole year. It's beautiful. I have everything I need here. And the other 5 months, I would love to live in Vancouver. I would like jump around between those two places, but still would want to travel to other places, would want to see more of South America, Asia, go to Australia.
Do you know what could you say what the difference in like cost of living is from Vancouver to Vienna? Are they pretty similar, or did you notice a difference?
It's similar, but I think Vancouver is a tiny bit more expensive. Like, Vancouver is pretty expensive even compared to other places in Canada. Vienna is up in the ranking of the most livable cities in the world, mostly in the top 5.
I'm just curious because I know Vancouver is really expensive from living near it.
Yeah.
Seattle's also really expensive to live in, so it's like, yeah. I like to preface this section by saying that travel means a lot of different things to different people. So like, especially in the United States, a lot of people will take their 2 weeks off from work and go on a vacation. Whereas for some of us, like you and me, we'll go and travel for months at a time in foreign countries. So what role does travel play in your life?
First of all, we have 5 weeks of work in Austria, and which gives us more time to decide what we want to do with those 5 weeks. And I would say surely 3 of those 5 weeks I would want to spend in different countries. Vienna is a tiny country, and we have 7 other countries surrounding us. So it's just a hop away to go to the Czech Republic, to go to Germany, to go to Italy, to go to Hungary or to Switzerland. So even for a weekend, there's more than enough time to go to a different country. If I'm really traveling, I want to have more time than just 2 or 3 weeks in one place. I want to get to know the culture and the people, and I feel like that has to be at least 2 to 3 months.
So you've done a lot of long-term traveling. Has it changed you as a person? What impact has it had on you?
I mean, I've always been pretty relaxed, but what I noticed just recently when I came back from South America to Vienna, people are super grumpy here sometimes, and I'm in
Yeah.
traffic and driving, and everyone's honking at you and screaming because they're not happy with I don't know what. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know, I feel super peaceful, even though it would stress me out usually. So yeah, like being more relaxed is definitely a thing I've taken away from traveling, and gaining self-esteem when it comes to talking to other people or even job-wise, because yeah, I feel like it's a big experience you can take to every field of your life.
Yeah. That's super. Yeah, I never really thought about that. I mean, I feel for me personally, I've gotten more confident and had more self esteem talking to people just because I've had so much practice being in situations where, like, I don't speak the same language or I don't know what I'm doing. So you kind of have to learn to be confident in yourself. But even I would imagine going into a job interview now, I feel more confident that I know what I'm doing because I've gained all these skills while traveling.
Yeah, exactly. Even with your friends, I feel like traveling shows you what are your real friends, because if you don't talk to a person for 7 or 8 months and you come back and it is the same as it was before you left, you know that is a good friend.
Can you talk a little bit about, for people who are listening who weren't in a foreign country when coronavirus happened, can you talk about what the experience was being in Peru when it happened?
Actually happened super unexpected. Like the coronavirus hit Europe in must have been like start of March, that the first countries were putting restrictions on the folks. But I never thought of this was going to happen anytime soon to South America. So I've start of March, I booked my flights to Brazil. And then from one day to another, the Peruvian president said everything is going to be on a lockdown. So you were not allowed to leave the place you're staying at unless you wanted to go out for a supermarket. So I was locked in with 11 other strangers in this tiny hostel in the city center of Arequipa, and those people were strangers at first, but when you're together in a situation like this, you kind of grow together. Like we were helping each other, we were talking to each other about about what we were worried about. We had morning sports sessions on the rooftop. We had cooking teams. We had so
Oh,
much fun inventing games and playing all sorts of games together and cooking together. And it sounds super weird, but after those 2 weeks in lockdown, everyone was sad to leave
oh,
because we've grown together so much within those 14 days. But yeah, I mean, it was good to be able to leave the country because there was military on the streets, and especially European looking people didn't seem very welcomed because they were like, oh, you could have the coronavirus in you. You were only allowed to walk by yourself on the streets. Like the military would separate you if it was more than one person.
Did you have any trouble eventually getting back to Austria?
The Austrian government had a flight back from Lima, but I was stuck in Arequipa. So I was like, I'm not sure if I was ever going to be able to leave Arequipa. And I was stuck there for 14 days. And then 10 hours before a flight back, I got a message saying, the British people are going to take you. If you want to join, you have to tell us right now. Like I was boarding the plane in Arequipa and I didn't know where I was going to end up. Was I going to stay in Lima? Was I going back to Europe? And if I go back to Europe, where I'm going to, I had no idea. But like within 45 hours, I made it back to Vienna, from Arequipa to Lima, from Lima to London, from London to Frankfurt, and from Frankfurt eventually back to Vienna.
Wow, that's a long trip. My next question is, how do you decide where to travel?
When I was going to New Zealand and Vancouver, I wanted to go to places that spoke English. Obviously, both of those countries are known for amazing nature and super friendly people. So when I was going to South America, language was also the main reason because I had a few Spanish classes back in high school and I wanted to improve my language. So I would say language so far was the main reason I was going to a different country, yeah.
Do you have any money saving tips that you can share?
I mean, before I left to go to South America about a year ago, I was having 2 jobs next to my studies. So I was working my ass off day and night to save money. And I mean, there was always like between 1.5 and 2.5 years between my travels, which is enough time to save some money.
Do you have any tips for while you're traveling, how you can not spend too much money?
In every major cities or major travel hotspots, there's touristy areas where you pay probably 4 or 5 times as much as you would pay on a market or in a small, tiny restaurant in a side alley. In Cusco, for example, I was having lunch at one of the markets for about $1.50, including a soup, a main dish, and drinks.
Yes.
So yeah. Go to the authentic spots and you'll definitely save money.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. I haven't heard that one yet. So, but I mean, I know that because when we were in Vienna, we would go get cheap food all the time.
Oh, yeah. Empanadas
so
for 80 cents.
Yeah, so good. Do you have any safety tips or stories you can share that will encourage safety?
Well, yeah, actually, when I was arriving in Colombia, that was the first time I've ever been to a South American country. I took a fake taxi by accident, and first the guy wanted to sell me drugs on the car, and then he was driving backwards in a one-way street, and like it was insane. And he wanted to have all the money I had in my wallet, otherwise he wouldn't let me out.
Wow.
So yeah, you gotta be a bit careful. Like, go only into licensed taxis, and yeah, I mean, nothing serious ever happened to me, but after this one experience in Colombia, I tried to be a bit more careful, because you only start being careful when something happens to you.
No, that's really true, actually. Yeah, because I got my phone stolen in Colombia after we had all parted. Yeah, it was really bizarre. Yeah, and it was only after that. I think it was partly because I was so anxious after it happened. I had like some PTSD from it, but I would start like when I would pass people on the street, I would walk even farther away from them because I just was scared someone was gonna snatch something again. But yeah, you don't really pay attention until something happens.
Yeah,
So,
when I was in Mexico, something else happened to me. I was on the street in front of my hotel and waiting for a pizza that I ordered. I only had like $10 in my wallet for the pizza I just ordered. Then a ATV, like a small um, motorbike thing, came towards me, and I thought it was the pizza delivery guy, but it was actually two Mexican police officers. And I was having a
ooh,
small Corona in my hand, like just a tiny one with
yeah.
0.3 liters in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Wait, you're not allowed to drink on the streets here. Do you know that?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then they started to look through all of my stuff. They went through my
Oh,
wallets and
wow.
through my shoes and through my pockets. And I think they were looking to find some drugs on me, because
Yeah.
that would have been good for them. But they didn't find anything. So they took away the beer and they said, "We have to arrest you now. You were
What?
drinking on the streets. We have to arrest you now." Yeah. And I was like, "Okay, I'm sure." And I was like,
Sure.
"Should I hop on your should I hop on your ATV?" And they were like, "We have to arrest you now. Do you understand?" And that was the first time I was like, "I think he wants to have some money from me." And I
Uh,
was not sure, because I didn't want to give them money if they didn't want to have money, because that would have worsened my situation. But
yeah.
then he took his handcuffs out and were holding them in front of my face and was like, "We have to arrest you. Do you understand?" And I was like,
Oh my
"I'm
God.
sorry, I only have $10." And they put the handcuffs again in front of my face and were like, "We have to arrest you now." And I was like, $10 is all I have. So they went through my wallet again and didn't find any more money, took the $10 and drove off.
Oh my
So,
God.
and yeah, especially in not Western countries, I think police can be corrupt sometimes. I mean, I didn't feel endangered at all, but it was kind of a weird situation. Those two Mexican police officers with machine guns in front of my face, uh, wanting money from me.
Yeah, that's pretty scary, but also really bizarre. Yeah.
Afterwards, I read online that it was widely accepted in Mexico that police officers want money from tourists, because first of
Huh.
all, it's a very easy way without a lot of paperwork to make them keep the rules. And on the second hand, it raises the very poor wages of police officers. So it's widely accepted.
I see.
Yeah, just be careful, then you're going to be fine.
Well, I'm glad you were safe through those times. Thanks for sharing that for other people to learn from. Do you have anything that annoys you about other travelers?
If I'm annoyed by other travelers, I usually don't spend time with them, because that is the
Yeah.
good thing about traveling. You can choose
You go
who
somewhere
you want to
else.
spend time with. There's so many people who go traveling just to have a good story, to boast with the experiences, instead of
Yeah.
just having a valuable experience. And they just want to brag about, oh, they've been to this country and they've been to 35 other countries. But you notice they're not doing it to have a good experience.
Instagram
This can
travelers.
be a bit annoying sometimes. Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree. I think people who are traveling longer term are usually more serious about chilling and meeting people and having experiences rather than getting that perfect picture. Whereas people who are only traveling for like a week are like, I need to see all of this and I need to have pictures of all of it. Do you ever encounter any problems with getting depressed from being away from home for so long, or just anything that gets you down mentally? And how do you work through that while you're traveling?
When you're traveling, you're by yourself. So if you encounter a situation that you're not happy with, or if something happens that, like, you would have someone to talk to when you were back home,
Yeah.
you have to cope with being by yourself, which I think I can do pretty well. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm feeling bad, I'm going out for a walk, listen to my music. That is another reason I prefer staying for a longer time in one place, because you get to know people way better and you can talk to things that are on your mind. Whereas when you're hopping from one place to another, you only have a distance relationship.
Who is the most interesting person you've met?
You have a lot of really good questions that are
Yeah.
super hard to answer now. In total, I've been traveling for 2.5 years, and in 2.5 years, you meet so many people you appreciate during your travels that I couldn't choose one single person out of it.
That's exactly why I have this podcast, so that I can talk to all of my friends from traveling and share them with everybody. What are some of the most significant cultural differences that you've noticed while traveling?
This, especially the standard of living I have back in Vienna. People in Vienna take, or like in all of Austria, take for granted what they have. But when you go to places like Colombia and Peru, and you see a lot of people who are living under very poor circumstances, you start to get a bit annoyed by people who are complaining so much back in Austria. I mean, there's so many small things you notice when you're in different countries. Like the United States and Canada, clubs close at 2 a.m., whereas in Europe, clubs close at 7 or 8 a.m.
We're not good at clubbing. I don't know why.
I still had an amazing time. You just have to start earlier. One more thing I've noticed in South America, people are way closer, whereas I think in Western countries, people are way more distanced to each other, especially if you meet them. For example, when I was in Cartagena in Colombia, I was taking Spanish lessons, and the Spanish teacher, she was walking around between the students, and whenever she was talking to someone, she would put her hand on someone's shoulder or someone's arm or someone's legs, and that is something that would never happen in the United States or back in Austria, because it's seen as rude, whereas it's normal in South America, which I absolutely like when I'm there.
I've heard that from a few people who I've met who were also in South America.
Another thing I've noticed is there's no one on time in South America, like at least not in Colombia and Peru. When I was teaching in Via de Leyva, I never started my class sooner than 20 minutes late. Like all of my students were 20 minutes late at least. I don't know. And the class was just for 1 hour, but they were still 20 minutes late.
I remember I had that class with like 6 or 7 kids that last week we were there. And every single day, 5 of the kids would show up within the first 15 minutes. Good. And then at 45 minutes into an hour class, these 2 girls would show up. And I'm like, I don't know what to teach now, because I've taught 45 minutes of other content and now they're here. And we would just play games for the last 15 minutes. And they were so sweet, but they really didn't learn much from me, unfortunately.
No, I think I learned more Spanish from them than they learn English from me.
Yeah, me too. I learned so much Spanish from teaching kids English. What is the biggest lesson you have from traveling?
Don't stress yourself about little things, because there's so many, especially I'm not often angry with other people, but I'm often angry with me if something doesn't work the way I wanted it to have it. But whenever I come back from traveling, I'm super relaxed about those things, being open-minded about other people's lifestyles and other people's opinions. You meet so many more people and you see that there's so much more out there than in your bubble.
Is travel for everyone?
Yes. People don't know traveling is for them unless they've done it, I would say. No, that's
they just don't know. They don't know yet.
A conversation I just had with my sister, because I told you earlier, my sister has never been very far abroad. And I was like, go ahead and try it, and you're going to be addicted to it. And she was like, no, I don't need it. I'm super happy here. I have everything I need.
What do you think holds people back from going out and traveling?
You hear so many bad things about other places on the news every day. And this just keeps you in your bubble. Like you barely hear good news on any media about South America, but if you go there and spend a bit of time there, you see what an amazing place
it's
this is.
Amazing. Yeah. I think you're right. I don't know if I've ever heard positive news about South America from the United States.
No.
But it's like one of my favorite places ever.
Exactly. And it's the same with any other place. But yeah, I guess that is what sells bad news about other places. Take your bag and discover it yourself.
Where are you going next when you start traveling again?
I think I'm going to go back to South America, because there's so many other places I want to see. And Colombia and Peru is just a tiny, tiny part of what is out there.
My final question is, if you were to give a travel recommendation to people listening to this podcast of all the places you've been, where would you recommend people to go?
I think it depends on where you're from. If you're from the United States, going to Vancouver might not be as interesting as going to Central Europe. But when you're from Europe, I totally recommend you go to Vancouver. And such an amazing place. It's in the middle of the mountains. It's right by the ocean. In summer, it takes 15 minutes to go to the beach. In winter, it takes 25 minutes to go to ski. But if you want to have an experience out of the Western world you're living in, if you're living in Central Europe or the United States, go to South America and be amazed by the lovely people you'll meet and by the crazy and colorful lifestyle you'll encounter. Yeah, I have one more advice to the people out there. Don't lock yourself out in a hostel just in underwear. I've done that before. It's super embarrassing. Yeah.
Wait, what's that story? Tell us.
That was when I was in, I think it was Toronto, and I was in this hostel and it was like midnight, and I wanted to go to the bathroom, but the bathroom was outside, but I couldn't find my pants. So I went out and forgot my keys inside. And I was standing in front of my room in underwear, and there was so many strangers walking to their rooms at that time, and I was there. It's always a fun story to tell.
Hostel living, yeah.
But bring your keys with you when you go to the bathroom. And pants. Keys and pants.
For people who are wanting to go to somewhere that's not Europe, but they're not ready for like completely off the grid South America, Buenos Aires in Argentina feels a lot like a European city, but it's in South America. So you're speaking Spanish. There's still a lot of like really Latino cultural things to do, but it does feel European. So it's a nice like soft like medium spot for people who are in between Europe and South America.
I've heard so many good stories about Buenos Aires, and it's definitely a place I want to go to as well. Have you been there?
Yeah, I was there for a couple weeks before I came back to the US.
Yeah, it sounds like such an amazing place to go to.
Do you want to share your Instagram or anything for people to look at pictures from your travel?
Yeah, sure. It's Clemens, CLEMS _ES. So feel free. I don't have a lot of photos, but you might encounter a story.
I feel like I saw a lot of Peru through your Instagram stories.
Well, it's still better to go there yourself.
I will one day. This is the end of this episode. Clemens, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great questions, and it's an amazing idea, this podcast. And Having been interviewed, I want to listen to all the other episodes as well. Maybe I come back to one of your episodes when I've traveled again to a different place.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Friendly Faces, Amazing Places. If you'd like to see pictures from my guests' travels, go ahead and check out our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube channels. And if you want to stay up to date on future upcoming episodes, please follow and subscribe.